All right. Hi, hello, everyone. Welcome to April's installment of Aviators Live. We've got Wagner, of course, your classic two hosts, Wagner and I. And then we've also got Parth and Divya from our product group, and special guest William, who will not be showing his camera because we've got a little bit of technical difficulties. Oh. But other than that, let's get started with the agenda. All right, so today we're going to go over the Ace Aviator of the month, as always, and then we've got a couple of events and community announcements. And then William will be kind of chatting with us a little bit about some zero downtime deployment support. We've got Parth chatting with us about inline code with PowerShell, and Divya chatting with us about monitoring enhancements. And of course, anytime left over, we've got first questions for you guys. So let's go over and we'll chat about the April's Ace Aviator of the month. So this past month, we were honoring Stephen W. Thomas for Ace Aviator of the Month. So go ahead and check out that link up above if you haven't seen April's newsletter. But Stephen has been active in the Microsoft community since 2004, when BizTalk was first released and a little complex to learn, resulting in him working worldwide with the community through some tough problems, which can be challenging but fun. And so, he is an Azure integration architect and developer. And one of the quotes also from his newsletter is, being an integrator is not just about being integration. So definitely check out April's newsletter to read more about Stephen's advice on what it means to truly be an integrator. And don't forget to post more content with your guys' stuff to #LogicAppsAviators so that you can be the next Ace Aviator. And with that, I'll pass it off to William.
Pass it out to me. I think we still have some communities here. And Stephen is a long-time MVP. I remember reading his blog posts when I started on my integration journey. So he's been helping a lot of people throughout the years. Okay, so the next one, we have some events and some community announcements. Some of them we showed next week, but it's last time, but it's good to remind because it's coming soon. And some others are new. So first one is just reminding everyone that the Integrate is pretty much a month or so away, right? Is our premier integration conference, is the place where we can go to a conference and talk just about integration. And you're going to find most of our PMs there from the various teams from AIS, but also some of the MVPs. And is a really good place to simply go have a chat and live and breathe integration for 2 days, right? You can check on turbo360.com/events integrated 2024, and hopefully you're going to be there. If you guys any of you that is in the audience already planning to go, please let us know and shout out there in the chat. We're going to have one live event with a group of our integrations PMs and also some of our community experts on Thursday, 30th of April, 2024, between 10 and 11:30 PST, right? And the idea is talking about how can you unlock the power of Azure integration services, what you needed to know if you're a technology decision maker. If you wanted to find out more about what is the agenda and how to register, go to aka.ms/AIS live, and you can find more information there. Divya, what is going to be your topic on that one? Since you hear just a quick sneak peek on that. I think Divya froze. Okay, we talk about that one later. So let's go to the next one. I think Divya is
I believe Wagner, if I may chime in, she may talk about some AI enhancements and updates that we are planning. I think in terms of like partnerships with other teams as well in Azure. So it would be great to check out what demos she has to present there, or the updates in this
awesome.
stream. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah, she might come back later soon. Well, she's going to come back soon because she has some interesting things to show about monitoring anyway, right? But just to show that doesn't matter, technical difficulties always happens. And she's back. We can hear you now. So Divya, we're talking about the AIS Live part that we're going to be talking a little bit about our AI investments on that.
Yeah, so would definitely like to invite folks to register for this event. Uh, there is definitely a lot we'll talk about, but specifically, Parth and I, we are driving a lot of AI investments on Logic Apps, and we would love to share with you what you can accomplish in low code manner and have that same capability of quick time to market even for your AI applications. So would love to have you there.
Awesome. And last thing is just reminding people that if you are in Germany, or if you are a German speaker, really soon you're going to have a new community group that is created by the Cubic team. You can find more information on the Aviator's Germany, right? And can subscribe to that newsletter or just join that on LinkedIn. This is fully managed by the Germany community, right? It's like we from Microsoft are giving support in terms of like the content and really loving to see more of those community-led things happening. So if you wanted to join that, please go to aviatorsgermany.de and find out more about what's happening there. So now let's start with some of our technical updates. The first thing that we're going to be talking here is go through some of Logic Apps Standard Dev Experience updates. Last month, we talked about improvements on DevOps, right? And then today we have another topic that is really close to that is kind of the complete part of some of those loops that we have. So we're going to be talking about zero downtime deployments with using deployment slots, right? So I'm going to be talking a little bit about what does the feature looks like, what we're planning to do with that. Then I'll pass on to William. That is one of our engineers working on this feature, and he's going to be demoing that for us. So the goal of having those zero downtime deployments working with support of a technology that already exists in Azure, that is the deployment slots, is support those enterprise critical workloads where you're not able to have any kind of outage when you're running your application, right? So the idea is be able to deploy without requiring a deployment, requiring a outage, preserve the health of that deployed application. So doing all the checks before you actually swap between those slots to guarantee that when the new code goes to production, it is healthy, it is running okay, right? And providing meaningful information if for any reason you find problems before that goes to production. So in terms of how the feature is working, is we enabling deployment slots for Logic Apps, right? Allowing deployment to a slot via the portal, via CLI, or via VS Code. Perform a package validation against the current code, so the code that you have, and doing comparison with the prod slot to guarantee that things, for example, changes on the type of workflow that would break your workflow if when it moves are picked up before that happens. And if your code has anything that would like fail during startup or fail against the current prod configuration, it prevents this the slide to swap, right? And also we're going to be providing some error notifications on the application overview page, so you know what the problems are on your staging, on the staging slot. Some of the limitations of that, the non-production slots is going to be read-only. That means from our point of view, the slots dispatcher, that is the component that makes sure that you receive new triggers and started workflows, are going to be turned off, right? The workflows can only be fired in production slots, and that guarantees that you don't have like any kind of race conditions or competing consumer scenarios while you getting that slot ready to go to production. And traffic distribution, exactly because of that, traffic distribution is going to be disabled for Logic Apps Standard, right? So for those slots, that means that you'll not be able to do some of those pushing part of the work from one slot and part of the work for another slot. So the reason for that is because we wanted to first make sure that the zero downtime, which is one of the biggest issues for people today in terms of getting those critical workflows available, is there. And then later on, we can evolve that feature to work with some of those other scenarios. So based on that, those are some of the scenarios that we don't support today on the feature, right? You'll not be able to do blue-green deployments, so or do product verification tests before you swap. That means that you're not going to be able to have a live connection to your staging slot, for example, to do tests before you swap. And with that, we also not be able to do A/B testing, like pushing some code or some of the workflows to one slot, some of the workflows to production slot. Okay, all of those are in our backlog, but it's not something that we're going to be enabling right now. With that, let's take a quick look at the of this feature live. So William, I'm going to be sharing your screen, and then it's all yours.
Okay, sounds good. Let me know when my screen is ready to go.
All good to go.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Wagner, for that intro. So as Wagner mentioned, there's a few different ways to interact or to use the slot features here. The way I'm going to demo today is going to be creating, deploying to, and then swapping slots all from VS Code. And we'll occasionally pop into the portal just to see what things look like there. So from the portal today, what you'll notice is that there is this under deployment tab, there's this deployment slots menu here. So as you can guess, you can add a deployment slot from this menu. As you can see, this app currently does not have one. We have a very simple workflow that we're starting out with, just a request response workflow returning 200. So from here, we're going to go ahead and go into VS Code. So from VS Code, again, we kind of see the same thing here with that Logic app. You'll also notice there is an option to see slots here if any exist, which right now they don't. But let's change that. So we're going to create a slot from VS Code now. We're going to select our subscription.
We have a lot of subscription, guys.
Yes, sorry, it's not a clean subscription to use, but now the first option that you'll get to kind of customize during the creation is just the name of the slot. So we're just going to call it staging for today. All right, and as we see towards the bottom here, that call to Azure is being made. We'll give that a second to complete, and we'll pop into the portal to see what that looks like.
It is interesting that the resources is actually live. It shows the creating station and everything.
Yes, yeah, I do. I personally like that. I like seeing that. And there we go. So it looks like it's created now. So from this local experience, we can see the slot now appears there, the staging slot we created. If we pop back into the portal and we go back to that deployment slots blade, now we do see it come up there as well. So I'm going to open that. And this will basically look like a normal Logic app. As Wagner mentioned, some workflow actions from the staging slot in the portal are disabled, or it's in a sort of read-only mode. As we can see now, there's no workflows there. So let's change that. Let's deploy. Let's say we have some changes we want to make to a workflow. Let's deploy them to the staging slot. And I'm going to use this workflow here. So very simple example, but we're going to just change the status code from returning 200 to let's do 204. So I'll go back up here. Using the Logic Apps deploy to slot command, it will go through, select the sub and the workflow app again. Again, apologies, there is a lot of workflows in this sub, so it'll take just a second for that to populate. There's our Logic app. All right, and now we can see, okay, so we created that slot, we named it staging, and that's the one that we're going to deploy to with these changes. And I need to update my function runtime, but we're going to deploy anyway. Are we sure we want to deploy it? Yes. Okay, and we can see towards the bottom that dialog indicating it's working. We also see over here again that looks like it's deploying. Mm-hmm. So we'll give that just a second.
William, just to help the audience, if you go to the files blade, this just show that it's just like a normal Logic Apps project, right?
Sure. Yes, this is just like a local like Logic Apps project. Yeah, that's this workflow.json that's open now. Thanks for pointing that out. Okay, it looks like that. I do have Docker. It looks like that deployment succeeded. So now let's go see what that looks like in the portal. So very quickly, we're back into that staging app. Let's go into our workflows. Okay, great. We see that workflow there. And we see that, okay, it's great. Those are the changes that we wanted to see. So now from the portal, we could initiate the swap action underneath this deployment slots menu. But for the sake of consistency, let's just do it from VS Code. Okay, and it's just the swap slot action. Select our subscription again. All right. We'll do our Logic App Live app. All right, so we want to select staging, and then we could have multiple slots here. Again, now we're going to select which one we're going to swap these changes into. So for now, we want to swap these into production. We'll click the production slot. And as we can see at the bottom, it's initiated that swap. And we'll give that just a minute to complete. As Wagner said, this is allowing us behind the scenes to make sure that our production app settings can be applied on this app, and that the changes can also be validated during the startup of our runtime, and that app is going to be healthy and up and running, ready to serve production traffic before we expose it to that production traffic.
And the most important to that is, although this might be taking some time to happen, that from the application point of view, there is no outage during that time. So the other application, the production application, is still receiving calls until it's ready to do that swap.
It's a great point. From the production side, everything is still up and running and ready to go. This is all just kind of happening on the slot side and sort of behind the scenes. Okay, it looks like our swap was successful. So let's see what it looks like in the portal. So if we go back, so this is our production slot app. And if you recall, before our demo, we looked at this one simple workflow here, and we noted that it had a 200 status code. And now you can see that those changes that we deployed to the slot and then swapped are now live in the production app without risking any of that downtime that might be associated with a validation error, which could have happened when deploying those changes.
And because that one was a swap, we can find the old code back on the staging, right?
I believe so. Yes. So let's take a look. Yeah, since we swapped those changes, and we can see 200. Yeah. So you can see what was running and with what we swapped in. So that concludes the portal and VS Code experience demo. Just wanted to use a very simple workflow and kind of show what this experience looks like. Again, we're doing a lot of it from the VS Code portal or VS Code today. That's what I prefer, but this is all also possible through the portal and through the Azure CLI.
That's awesome. And William, all the other things that that slots gives to us is available there, right? It's like, because you did that swap, if you needed to do a rollback, it's just a matter of doing a swap back between stage and production again, and you automatically have the rollback.
Yes, absolutely. That I love that feature from a servicing standpoint. It's very easy to, should you see any kind of issues with those changes in terms of its like actual execution in production. Yes, it's the exact same operation to reverse the swap. Basically just swap staging and prod once more, and that will get those old changes back. So yeah, I'm always love having easy, quick rollback options just in case.
Oh, that's awesome. And when you don't want it to use that slot anymore, you still have the option to delete it, because when you're creating that, you're actually creating another resource, right? What is the impact for that in terms of the cost or performance?
So that's a good point. That it's this we can see this resource down here in my resource group. So it's essentially like having an additional Logic App standard. You can use the same app service plan for hosting, but it's like just having a separate instance, separate Logic App that is just kind of tied to your production slot behind the scenes. And yes, as you mentioned, you can, if let's say we're done with the staging slot, we would like to pare down that resource for now. We can just do a simple delete, and that won't impact our production app whatsoever. We'll just need to recreate a slot if we want to use that feature again.
But it was quite interesting that what you said, that is actually connected to the same app service plan and the same storage. So apart from any performance implications, if that app service plan is overwhelmed, there is no extra cost implications for a customer.
Yes, that's
because they're using the same resources that you already deploy, right? Not trying to create new new resources for that, apart from the application itself.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That's an important point for the app service plan and the storage resources.
That's great. Just before we go, any highlights of when you're working with that? What is the most challenging, or the something that it was a gnarly problem, but you're super proud that you managed to solve on that one?
That's a good question. So I think that what I'm most happy about with this feature is one of the reasons, like you said, it's just it's very kind of self-contained. Like using the staging slot is very self-contained, and kind of just as we've just discussed, it's easy, very fast to create the slot, to delete it if necessary. It doesn't incur a lot of additional resources. Like we mentioned, you don't need a new app service plan or new storage. So it's quick in terms of creation and deletion, and kind of decoupled from the production app in a way that it's sort of modular. So I really appreciate that, and I think being able to surface the validation errors in a safe way is going to be very helpful to customers. And yeah, looking forward, we're also excited to bring some more functionality through the deployment slots in the future as well. So I'm excited for customers to start using it, and hopefully we'll save some heartache for you all, and have less bugs in production. Always passionate about that.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for that. Thanks for joining us today to share that. Let's go back to the presentation, and I think now we have Yupa.
Awesome. Yep. So before we just jump into it, I wanted to quickly go over like what problems today people are facing, right, when they are in portal and trying to add some extensibility or especially code, right, to their workflow. So it seems like, especially for PowerShell, people, from the articles that I've read, people tend to even create Docker images, right, create containers. They have to go about creating that Azure container registry as well, right, and then end up deploying the script in the same place, and then deploying a workflow in the same place as that container, and then being able to run, right, like a PowerShell job or a script in Logic apps. Obviously, alternatively, you can do playbooks, right, do the jobs there, or even create Azure functions for that matter of fact, right? But all of that, I mean, at the end of the day, is overhead, right, Wagner? Like, I mean, you're having to create resources, you're having to pay extra for all of this. So we heard you, right? Like, and we also saw some feedback on our forum about giving the capability, in fact, Stack Overflow as well, giving the capability to the user to add extensibility in any sort of coding language they want, without having to paying extra for deploying another resource, or even the effort, right, that it takes, even though you have the money to be able to pay the extra, right? So we are planning to release, right, this particular inline code or custom code in portal itself. The first iteration is going to have PowerShell. The second iteration will have C#, and the third one will have Python. So we will include all these, right, like inline capabilities for you, that you can simply start writing basic scripting scenarios, not very advanced, obviously, very basic scripting scenarios in Logic apps, right? Obviously, we want to hear from you, like if you want to even go all out and have advanced scripting scenarios in the portal, or you want to see it in VS Code, for example. So we would love to hear from you for that. But if you go to the next slide, maybe there is some preview we can take a look at there. So what happens is the particular file is stored as a separate, I mean, as a file inside of the workflow JSON, not as raw code inside of workflow JSON as it did in inline code, right? You are able to also like pass in the inputs and outputs from different actions. Wagner, if you can just run the video on that, on the GIF, that would be awesome.
Let me do that.
Thank you. So you can just simply search, right, inline code. You'll be able to find the action. Here, I've just started adding a particular script for getting all the resources from a particular resource group. I used dynamic content to be able to get the resource group name from the HTTP request, and I'm able to rename, right, the file however I want. So it will be saved into the particular workflow JSON. So you have that, right, extensibility to even name your files in that case, right? And you'll be able to obviously use these outputs in future actions as well. And as I suggested, we are planning to do this for C# and Python very soon. We already have C# and VS Code, as many of you have played around, right, with that. But we want to hear from you, right? Is this something that is helpful for you? Is this something that will help save cost and effort? Because that's especially what we considered in mind when we were sort of helping build this feature, right? And I think one more thing to be careful about for this one is for advanced scripting scenarios, there is VS Code, right? So in this case, like, we are not supporting that. It's out of scope for this. It's just simple scripts. So yeah, definitely let us know if it's something that you want to see further from our side. But that's all I had.
Just for my benefit, this feature, what it's doing is allowing you to use that inline code that people already knows, but today only support JavaScript with different types of languages, right?
Right.
So in this case now C#, PowerShell, and potentially Python later on.
Correct.
And although it is not the same that is our VS Code custom code, where you actually create a full function that is going to be deployed on the same package as
Exactly.
Logic App.
Exactly, Wagner.
But it's like more advanced than what it was before for JSON, because you're actually creating that file, right? You have a little bit more of the control,
wiggle room,
file name, how to find, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
So it's looking quite interesting. And although we're talking about that in the portal, right? If I doing that locally on VS Code, when this is deployed, I'm still going to be able to use that inline code, writing first on VS Code and then after that push to the portal.
So that's something that I do need to check onto with engineering. Not sure if we are ready with the VS Code release yet, but I believe that if you are authoring it in Portal, it should work like already authored scripts in VS Code. That should not be a problem.
Cool. If not, at least it's on the roadmap.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect.
We want to give the extensibility in any platform, right? Not just Portal, VS Code as well.
Yeah. So it's in Designer, inline code in Designer.
Correct.
Cool. Mike has a question here, right? When will C# be .NET Core or 4.7 framework?
I believe we are going towards Core. We are going towards the latest, and we're quite excited about that. I think that is also triage and work has sort of begun on that. But we are moving towards .NET Core. Is that good, Mike? If not, let us know, right? Like if there's any complications you may face.
I think it's trying to not work with legacy code. So working with
exactly.
Core is going to be really cool. And I would say that keep tuned next month, Mike. That its name Kent might have some news about that, even for functions itself, for the custom code.
Yeah, and one more thing I'd like to mention, Wagner, like this is not in public preview yet, right? So we're planning to do the public preview next month. Right now, it's just we're bug bashing and making sure this feature is up to the mark. So we'll make sure to do a demo as well in the next live as soon as it's public preview for PowerShell. So that's going to be the first one.
That's why we're showing this sneak peek here on the video. So what I'm hearing here, Pat, is that you just volunteered yourself to a live demo next month.
Absolutely. We'll do multiple, hopefully, if there is something from AI side too, that's the case. But yeah, this is great.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for that one. I think it's something else that people is going to be quite interested. And as you say, like last time that I needed to use functions, I have to write a function app for that, and my solution was so close to that if I had that, I could have written everything in just one Logic app.
That's
so
why
I'm looking forward to rewrite that on this when I'm back.
Exactly.
When this is available.
That's great, Wagner. I'm glad like this Logic app is going to be that hub, right? Like we want to do code too, like we don't need to provision like different resources, be able to add that extensibility here. So that's sort of the goal we're moving towards. But anyway, we can move forward.
Okay. And now we're going to be talking about some of the monitoring enhancements. And all yours, Divya.
Thank you, Wagner. Can we move on to the next slide, please?
We can.
All right. So we have been working on a couple of monitoring improvements, and this is the first, I would say, release towards many things that we want to bring to you in the next couple of months. So today I want to talk about two of the capabilities that we have recently released, and one of them is coming soon. So the first one is bulk resubmission of the failed runs. So I think this is specifically for Logic App Standard. And for those who are already using Logic App Standard, have probably seen or used the workbooks that we released a couple of months back that were based on App Insights logs, which would allow you to look at your Logic App workflows, runs, categorize them based on success, failures, and then do a resubmission as well for the failed runs. But the resubmission capability was for a single run. So today, what we are bringing you is another workbook which would allow you to select more than one run in a single click, and then do a bulk resubmission for those runs. So I'll quickly show you what that looks like. Um, it is a workbook template. We do have plans to converge the previously released workbook with what we are releasing today, and that is something that we'll be doing soon. But for now, it's a standalone workbook by itself. It is based on App Insights V2 schema. So if your workflow is not, or if your app is not on V2 schema, you will have to take an additional step to update the host.json and opt into the V2 schema. The second capability that I want to talk about is the insights blade we have added for Logic App Standard. This is something that is work. We are code complete. We are just working on last couple of things in terms of fixing bugs and polishing it so that we can release it soon. But I will do a quick demo to show you what it looks like. The scope of it's a dashboard which is primarily focusing on aggregated data for workflows and compute, and is based on metrics. So for those who are not yet ready to choose one of the Azure monitoring um, out capabilities such as App Insights or Log Analytics, for whatever reason, right, for cost or for any other reason, you can still take advantage of metrics and these out of box parameters to monitor your applications and get a aggregated view onto the health and status of different components in your application. The scope is the Logic App. So unlike in the workbooks that we had provided before, which were based on logs, where you had to uh, take certain steps to basically choose your application, your workflows, or basically choose the scope at which you want to see the data. Unlike that, this is scope to a Logic App. So you simply go to your app and all of the data is available for you at the scope of that Logic App. So with that, I'll move. I'll very quickly move to show you what these look like. So Wagner, if we can share
Ready?
my screen.
Yes. Let's go.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so before I go into bulk resubmission, just a quick recap into what we have already released in terms of monitoring for Logic Apps using workbooks. So this is a workbook, this is a blog post that I'm sharing that talks about how you can leverage an out of the template that we published and use it to basically look at choose your application insights workspace and then look at your Logic App and workflows, visualize the runs and their status, and also go into the monitoring view of those runs. Or if the runs are in failed status, you can from this portal itself you can do a resubmission. If you click on those runs, you can actually get into the details of the run itself and see all the actions and the status of those actions as well. So this is a workbook that was already released. What it did not have is an ability to do bulk resubmissions. And that is something uh, that we have already released a blog post yesterday around it. So feel free to go and check out this blog post. I think I've added a link to it as well. But in the blog post, you can find all the details about the workbook template itself. So here is the sample template, and all you have to do is choose this template and deploy this workbook templates from Azure portal, and then you should be able to take advantage of this. Like I said before, to leverage this capability, you do need to have App Insights v2 schema opt-in, and for that you can just go to the host.json for your application and add this setting into your host.json. Again, this is all captured in the blog post, so you have access to this, but just want to call out to make sure that you have these enabled. So here is how this workbook looks like. So here I have an example where I have chosen my App Insights workspace, and then it shows me the logic apps applicable for that workspace. And then coming to the workflow, I am specifically choosing the workflow of interest here. You have status, so you can filter based on status as well. Right now I have everything here, but I can also go in and only look at the failed runs. Hmm. Okay, looks like we just found a bug. um okay, let's look at last 4 hours. All right, so that was not a bug, but I had to increase the time window to see all the runs. Once you have the runs, then you can either select everything, or you can go and select the runs that are of interest to you, and then go down here and then resubmit the selected runs. It is going to show you this window where you can again need to do a bulk resubmission. So this basically does a resubmission for all the selected runs. And then if you go to the portal monitoring view of this workflow, you should be able to see all the resubmitted runs. They will also show up here as well as you go back and refresh this. And hopefully they should show under a successful category versus failed.
Divya, how long does it take for the workbook to update?
This is based on metrics. Sorry, this is based on logs. So it can take a couple of minutes depending on the load and the workload, I think, which is why we are not seeing it right away. But yeah, in couple of minutes when you come back to the portal, you should be able to see those runs, and if they were successful, they would show under the successful category. So that's all I have for bulk resubmission. We have the blog post, so please do give it a try. And if you have any feedback, do let us know. Uh, as I was mentioning before, today these are different workbook templates, and we have plans to converge these and provide you a single template with better transitions between your Logic app workflow and to the runs for that workflow, and then go for bulk resubmission from there. So coming to the second capability that I want to talk about today. So as I was mentioning that we have enabled what we call as insights for Logic App Standard. And this is something that you must be familiar with. It's a Azure concept that you have it available for many other services as well, storage, I believe APIM and Service Bus as well. Uh, so in terms of our first click stop, we are have released the capability here that is completely built upon metrics. And that's the idea here, is that metrics have very low latency. You can get your all the data within a minute, as well as you do not have to configure any monitoring configuration on your app, and you can still take advantage of all this data. It also doesn't incur any additional cost for you. So for ground up scenarios, we wanted to make sure that customers who are having Logic App Standard have a way to look at high level aggregated view of their application and workflow data. It does have three tabs. So the first tab gives you a high level summary on the health of your workflows running as part of this application. As you would have noted that I do not have to choose anything else here beyond the time range, because since it's in the scope of the Logic app, it's only showing me the data for that application. So this is the status of the workflow runs and the actions and triggers. Once you go to the next level, it shows you the exact metrics, exact numbers of runs and triggers and actions that have been executed as well as successfully as well as failed. You can also go to the next level of detail where you can actually see some of the trends for the runs, actions, and triggers in the next chart, and get an idea of the pattern of the workflow, as well as what uh, number of as well as the categorization between the successful and failed runs, actions, and triggers. With this information, you can then move on to the next level of details for your for your application and its workflows. So the second tab gives you uh, both a successful and a failed view of your workflows. So the two tables here are pretty much same, but the first one focuses more on the successful view, whereas the second one focuses more on the failed view of the runs. So as you can see, I have a couple of workflows here. The recur and test workflow are pretty much in healthy state with 100% success rate for runs, actions, and triggers. So not much to look here, but the broken trigger is the one where the runs are successful, but the triggers do the success rate for the triggers is 0%, and this is basically a workflow which has triggers that are failing, and that you can come into the second table and then see that while the runs are not while there are no other failures, but the trigger itself is failing here, and you can see the pattern or the trends for the trigger failures as well. Broken JS is another workflow here, which has failures. Runs are failing because there are actions that have been failing as well. The trigger, however, is successful. So it gives you like a more detailed view into whether triggers itself is failing or it's one of the actions that are causing the runs to go into the failed state. And then you can come into the failed chart and look at more specifics around the number of runs that have been failed, the trend for the failure, number of actions that have failed. So in this workflow, I have only one action, which is why you see the runs and action failure number to be same. But for more complex scenarios, the actions, success, and failure runs numbers could be much higher than runs. Um, so this gives you a high level view into the health of your workflows and what specifically in the workflows may be running into the error state. And then the third tab focuses more on the compute. So the first two charts basically give you idea into the workflow jobs that are being executed as part of those workflow runs, and if there are any delays that are being experienced. In this case, I think there is not a lot interesting, but you could have situations where there are unexpected delays, and this chart can help you understand if that's happening. And when that is the case, then you can further look into your compute. This was a simple workflow, so I do not have a lot of instances that are running. but you can actually come here and see how many instances as part of your app service plan are being used to run the workloads in this application. We also have charts for average memory, again for used again for the nodes that were provisioned for running this workload. Next, we have two other charts uh, which give you metrics for your app service itself. The above ones were giving details for the specific nodes, but this is where you get the health of your entire app service plan, which could be used across multiple applications. But if there are multiple instances, then you would see these numbers by instances, so you can get a sense of uh, where where the bottlenecks are or how the utilization is happening. Right now, I have only one instance here, so that's why it only shows you one instance. So th- that's this brings us to the end of what we are planning to release. So the idea is that we enable through these dashboards any customer who wants to get a view into the health of their application, as well as the compute utilization for their application, without taking any additional step, without paying any additional cost. As a next step, we plan to bring in the more details about your workflows and the other capabilities that I was showing you in the other workbooks as well on this dashboard, where as a customer you can now bring in or choose your App Insights workspace and be able to drill into more details, and go into your logs right from here without having to manage multiple workbooks or multiple dashboards. Yeah, that's all I had, Wagner.
That looks quite interesting, and I can see that for diagnosing those cases where you don't know if your application is throttling or not, or what is the actual consumption, why my logic apps are stuck on running for so long, having access inside the application to those dashboards and confirm that yes, I have like a high number of jobs in the queue, and that's because I was expecting to have 20 instances. I only have 10, maybe because I misconfigured the application to have a cap of 10. That's like help people to work with that a lot faster and
Yeah,
self-set instead
exactly.
of having to go to app insights, try to run queries to get that. Everything at a fingertip is going to be quite useful.
Yeah, that's the hope, that people do not have to take a bunch of steps or do not have to. There is, I think, we are trying to balance uh, the the richness of App Insights with simplicity of this dashboard, where while you have very rich telemetry, it also takes some ramp up to leverage that telemetry in the best way, and this hopefully provides people a good enough view into the health, and then they can go into more deeper telemetry through App Insights.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, that like the app insights is awesome because it also give you, especially if you getting all the information in the same place, not just for the integration components, but also the front end and back end components. It's allow you to see like the end to end of an application. But when you wanted to zoom in just to logic apps, you'd have to do a lot of filters that we're doing for people here. So I think it's super useful.
Yep.
And
And
love the workbook being able to enable some of the other knobs as well, like the auto resubmit was something that people was missing from the previous incarnation of that. It was good that
mhm,
we were able to work with uh, uh,
the work.
the Azure Monitor team, because I think the issue that we had before was like multiple selection was not available on Azure Monitor, and then we worked together with them to enable that feature.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Like, thanks to workbook team who actually
Yeah.
prioritized and delivered this based on our request to be able to select multiple runs and provide an ability to do a resubmission for them. Yeah.
It was a really nice case of a one Microsoft working together with other teams to achieve
Yeah.
something for the customers. So I think we come at the end of our technical updates, and we have a couple of questions here. I don't think they are related to these things that we showed, right? But we have one question from Big Mikey about is providing a free skill for Logic Apps Standard app in the roadmap, because this is the biggest roadmap for my team. Leaders are monitoring Azure spend a lot now. Having a free layer will aid innovation. So I think I can take that one, and Divya, feel free to chime in on that. We don't have that at roadmap right now, as far as I understand. But one of the things that we're trying to do is to make sure that you are able to work either locally with as close as possible the same richness that you have on the portal. That's where we improve it, the onboarding. We're making sure that the time that you get to run those workflows locally are faster, and also the ability to use the connectors, like it doesn't matter where you are, working in a similar way. And the next thing that we're doing that is probably going to help on that as well, that wanted you to work more locally, is starting to look seriously about what you can do for automated testing. And that is on the roadmap, and it's something that we're focusing this semester to look at what is the possible solutions for that. So not sure if I answer your question here, Big Mikey, but not something that on the roadmap right now, but we're trying to make sure that as much as possible you don't be hampered by that to do innovation if you be able to do stuff locally. I hope that helps. Next question, I think Alex, you should be able to help with that one. If is from FS, and is asking if it's possible to call C# functions from Azure Data Mapper XSLT, right? So I'm assuming that is actually using the data mapper instead of the built-in XSLT actions, or SQL lookup, or REST API calls. So I think I know the answer for SQL lookups and REST APIs. I don't think those ones are available yet, right? But it's something that we were potentially looking into. Can we call C# functions from the data mapper today with that extensibility that we created? Do you remember if that's possible today, Alex? I think you're on mute. Okay. I think Alex, it's on mute right now.
Sorry, what was that? I was having some issues with my laptop here.
Cool. So just to rephrase, FS is asking if we are able to call C# functions from the data mapper today. We know that we included some extensibility, but I'm not sure if it's the extensibility is just for XSLT or if you're able to do C# today.
I know we can write custom functions. So if you can't, I don't think we can call specifically C# functions, but I think if you can write a custom function using the custom functions for data mapper, then you would be able to have some sort of capabilities for that.
Okay, so we'll have a check, and then keep an eye on the chat. We can answer that later on the chat, FS. And it seems like that was the only two questions that we had today. So with that, I think we're pretty much on time anyway. So thanks again for for joining us, and see you guys next month, last Thursday of the month, again on the same Logic Apps time, on the same Logic Apps channel. I'm too old. See you all.
See you. Bye.